Coronavirus pandemic has troubled the world. The world is talking of coronavirus's behavior and survival in this climate situation. In the current scenario, we are facing the major issues of climate change, like loss of sea ice, accelerated sea level rise, more intense heat waves, and that is affecting the health and fitness of the environment and hence is affecting us. It's high time to talk on our environment and to talk on climate. We have with us Sandeep Goswami. Sandeep Goswami has studied climate science and policy from Terry SAS, New Delhi. He is also a trained advertising and marketing professional and has a bachelor's degree in biology. His main idea is to build climate resilient, integrated, smart urban centers. Let's have chat with Mr. Sandeep. So Sandeep ji, the first question I'll ask you is, the world is now more aware about climate change. Can you please explain it in a simple language? What is the current scenario we are facing and reasons behind it?
That's a very important question. Thanks for asking, Sandeep ji. I will explain it in as simple language as I can. See, climate change, which was earlier called global warming, is a complex issue. When the weather system that we know, such as spring, summer, monsoon, winter, doesn't occur as it usually should, and when they do, they reach extreme limits. Nowadays spring isn't there. We directly experience the summer, or the temperatures last time we all know in June reached 50 degrees centigrade, or instead for rainfall happening, which should be spread over 3 months, we suddenly see that rainfall happening in just 2 or 3 days. That all that rainfall in 2 or 3 days definitely would be creating landslides and floods. Now, for the earth to reach this kind of situation, which is now actually takes about a few thousands of years. To give you an idea, it actually takes 12,000 years for the polarity, the north and the south pole, to flip, to shift. It takes about 25,000 years for the entire earth to slow down its rotation and its axis tilting, and a lakh year for it from there to go off orbit, and then the sun pulling it back again. And it's obvious that when such situation would occur, they would be bringing in calamity. But what we are doing now, I mean, in the last 300 years of industrialization, we have nearly copied this kind of situation. That's what we are able to see today. A chain of events that are leading to climate change. While it has and it always will be a natural process, the reason it is considered as a problem today is because it is called Anthropocene or human-induced climate change. Yes, the various problems which one experiences now, such as cyclone, heavy rain, flood, and that also in the same year. You see drought in the same region. For example, if you all remember Chennai, we had this water trains going out there, and people standing in queues looking for water because there was extreme drought. And what happens in that same very year, October, we see the whole Chennai flooded. So such events are repeating year on year, world over, and the world of people are experiencing rising temperatures, extreme weather, air quality impacts, and vector-borne diseases. So that's how I would be explaining what climate change is in a simplest way.
It's very true, a very close observation by you. There's a rise in temperature. Extreme weather is breaking its previous record. Breathing issues are happening because of air quality impacts. But as you mentioned here, vector-borne disease, how it is related with the climate change?
That's a very good question. I shall but answer it a little bit differently, if you would allow me, so that your audience can understand the importance better. I'm sure most of us living in villages have seen dust storms. And if you have been living in Rajasthan, you would have seen sandstorms. It is difficult to breathe, isn't it? And it gets into your eyes, it irritates the hell out of you. And those living in the metros like New Delhi know the hell of pollution every winter. One can't breathe. But it doesn't stop at that. The pollution, be it dust storm or in villages, or the petrol fumes in the metro, and also the smoke from the factories in almost all major towns enter your lungs. It not only irritates the lung, but it gets into your body and weakens your immune system over time. One must be wondering that, okay, petrol and factory fumes are dangerous, but what can happen to village dust? What can dust do? Well, what about the chemical pesticides that we spray on our crops? Why do we spray it? To kill the pests, right? Insects, virus, bacteria, fungus that plague our crops. And what do you think that dust is containing? Yeah. So now you have understood it. Let's understand, we have extreme hot days. It sucks that last drop of moisture from the land, making the particles finer, lighter, and they fly much more distance. Had there been no climate change, as the summer would peak and the soil start to dry, it is already time for the winter to come, settle down the dust. Isn't that what Mumbai prays for every summer? For the rain to come on time and fill up the Powai lake, which is drying up, and other reservoirs. So we know, we all look for that, but that is not happening. Year on year, we sit down tensed with that. So had we not had smokestacks and vehicular pollution, our body would be resilient to that dust, by the way, which would not also be having chemicals in it. And that is the problem, which is reducing and creating an havoc to our immune system. And by the way, viruses, bacteria and fungus have lived on earth longer than humans have, and they prey on weak immune systems. That should answer your question, I suppose.
So you are saying the climate change can impact the immune system. Then it's very dangerous, as the immunity is one of the tools to fight corona. I must ask you that, is there any relation in spreading of coronavirus with the climate change?
It was that simple. To answer your question, it's both partial yes and no. The origin of the virus, as most scientists agree, is from the wet mammalian market of China, where wild animals are sold. Most viruses have affected humans from animals, the swine flu, the bird flu, etc. But the cause of the disease spreading into pandemic can be attributed partly to climate change. You see, due to our weakened immune system caused by pollution and extreme weather, etc., when one gets heat stroke, the immunity decreases. When one experiences flood, there is so much pollution from buildings, cars, petrol, dead animals which may be diseased. This toxic mix, it gets into the water system, it gets into our rivers, it gets into our crops and our fields, and ultimately it enters our food chain, therefore further weakening our immune systems. Now, our modern life has made the whole world as a village, and this helped the virus to cross continents sitting on a human host who has a weakened immune system. So you see how climate change can be partly attributed to the present pandemic, but it is not the only concern. Actually, climate change is melting the permafrost and the glaciers all around the world, and it would be releasing into the world microorganisms which have been laid buried for the last 50,000 years, and no scientific community knows what it can do. That is going to be another clear and present danger that must be addressed.
When you say climate change is a clear and present danger and it must be addressed, does the world have a plan? Where India stands in this, as we are not the rich developed nation, our solutions must cater to our realities. What, in your opinion, we must do?
Yes, Sandeep, the world is trying to address climate change. Almost all nations are the signatories to the Paris Climate Change Agreement in 2015. So is India. And each country has to decide on its, decide a differentiate but at a common path to address climate change. And it is called the INDC, or the Intended Nationally Determined Contribution. But the coronavirus pandemic needs to be addressed first. That is the priority. And I have some ideas for it, and they are divided into immediate term, short term and long term. In the immediate term, we can work on cutting edge technology, both mitigation and adaptation solutions. In fact, I have been an advisor for such solutions with some companies. In the short term, we need to be able to predict extreme weather events, not in a generic way, but accurately, and not just for Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Madras, but for any town and city, village in India, so that retrofit solutions can be provided to prevent the loss and damages that can happen even in those areas, just averting disaster and catastrophe. To differentiate, let me explain. A disaster is damage to the asset, but a catastrophe is a damage to life and livelihoods. So in the long term, we as people have to migrate, especially people in the coastal regions have to migrate because of global warming. There is going to be a rise in the sea levels, and as we will be forced to leave, climate resilient integrated smart cities would be the answer for the future. And those, the way I think should be designed is, I use a formula called FEW-H, and the FEW-H concept is like food sufficiency, energy efficiency, water security. When I say security, is that it cannot flood and neither can there be any drought. And then you have waste management, and then the whole city has a health bubble. This pandemic has shown almost all, I'm sure all of us have seen this, that if you do not work on and live in the same place, and you do not have your food grown close by, we are in for an unimaginable hardship. If you don't learn it now, I think that will be too late.
That is a well thought out approach. We would have loved it if you could share more on your solutions. I think the people would very much want a solution. We sure will do another program with you to understand the solutions.
Thank you very much. Yes, of course, actually anything to do with helping the people and climate change mitigation and adaptation solutions are something I would love to share with people that can help them in their businesses, help institutions, help farmers, and help industries across sectors. And yes, we can begin but with the solutions for the pandemic, which is current and that needs to be addressed. And that's how, yes, I think it's a great idea, Sandeep, and yeah, I'm very much up to that. Thank you so much.
This is Sandeep Goswami, a consultant on science and policy of climate change. His research and solution, even prediction of climate, can be very useful for those who are thinking establishing a business or resident. Sandeep ji, thanks a lot for being with us on our show. Thank you. Stay tuned with the Times Media for information and news on climate change and more. Till then, bye bye.
बने रहें thetimes.media.com पर। आप हमें फेसबुक और यूट्यूब पर भी देख सकते हैं।